Welcome back to the Mexican Factory. On today's menu, slow cooked 598 cubed Big Block Chev with a side of air fried twin 88mm turbos. This is my mate Mark's 1983 Chevy Malibu, or otherwise known as the Burrito Bus. If you haven't seen episode 1, please hit the link in the corner and check it out. I want to say thanks to everyone who messaged me, friends, family, and fans. Had such positive feedback on the car, but also just the channel in general. Really cool to see that positivity coming through in the messages. If you want to support the show, please consider sharing this video to your friends. Hit the like and subscribe button. And if you want to buy some merch, we've got Skid Factory stuff, I Hate Cars hats, upstairs in stock. And if we don't have it in stock, our friends at Right Lane Print Media will print it especially for you and we'll ship it to your door anywhere in the world. In last week's episode, we left off, we just had the fuel tank out. We were sorting out the fuel sender for the 98 fuel system, and we were working on plumbing the car to get it ready to drive. In this episode, we're hoping to get it started. There's still a lot of plumbing to get done on the car. We're using Raceworks AN fittings on this build. Majority of the plumbing has been done using 200 series Teflon, bar the radiator. The radiator is 100 series, it's -20. I plan to swap the 100 series out for the 120 series, which actually has the nylon outer. It's a lot easier to work with than the stainless braid. I'm just not happy with it being so stiff. It's gonna work, the engine's solidly mounted, the radiator has got movement in it, so it's gonna be fine, but just that doubt in my head. I'm the one responsible for the work that I've done on this car, and I don't want to let anyone down. So I want to make sure everything's good. I'm going to take my time. We are planning to get the car started in this episode, but we have to have all stars aligned. Timmy is going to come up from his location. Mark's obviously got to be here, and also our mate Kai from Night Family Motorsport has to be here. So we've got to come up with a game plan. But first, I've got to finish off the car. So lots and lots of work to get done. I suppose we've just got to hook in. I ordered a bunch of fittings end of last episode. They've all arrived, so now we can fit all those and then move on to some exhaust fabrication, and then I suppose maybe start configuring the ECU and fire it up. The last 5% of a project not only takes the longest, but it's also the most important part. You can't miss anything in these final stages, and if you do, it can be catastrophic. Writing all the jobs down on a to-do list is always a great idea, just so you don't miss anything.
Step into my office. Has a hoist, still lays on the ground to work on a car.
I mentioned previously that I wanted to change the feed line from the mechanical pump up to the fuel rails. We're adding in a 10 micron filter, which we're mounting directly to the mechanical pump. This required a few modifications, including a couple of new fuel lines to be made up. It took a bit of modifying, but we've got the Raceworks high-flowing fuel filter mounted directly off the mechanical pump. We had to modify the turbo mount and then make up some new lines, but that is all sorted. While I'm here, I thought I'd just talk about fuel filters. They're an important part of your project, important part of your car. Usually your OEM car might have something like this installed in line, but in an aftermarket application using AN fittings, you're going to be using maybe something like this. This is one of Raceworks filters. It's got a special mount. They've also got other ones like this, and the one on the mechanical pump is the same as this, but it's a long version, meaning it flows more fuel. When it comes to filter elements, usually what I do is I'll run a 100 micron element before the fuel pump, and then after the fuel pump, I run a 10 micron element. The micron rating is basically the particles that it filters out. So the lower the number, the finer the mesh, if that makes sense. And you can see the difference in these two filters here. Different people have different preferences with what they want to run filter element wise. This is just what I've always ran on all of our project cars. 100 pre-pump, 10 post-pump to filter out any debris so you don't ruin your injectors. As I mentioned last episode, we're swapping out the wastegate springs from a 13 PSI spring to a 7 PSI spring. You can triple stack these if you want for all the boost, something along the lines of that, and you can also get a 9 PSI spring as the center. But we're not using that, we're just using the 7 PSI spring, and we're using artificial air to apply pressure to the top port and keep the valve shut. So we've got to also put a dome pressure sensor. We're just going to drill and tap an 8th MP2 hole in there. The dome pressure sensor gives us the data we need to see so we know how much pressure is being applied to that top port. So drill that, bolt these back together, and then only a little bit of boost.
Always a little bit of boost.
Only a little bit.
Run in tune.
No vice, no worries.
Two funky hands.
Working our way through, plumbing everything up. We've got the fuel system pretty well done now. The race fuel system has a -8 feed up to the surge tank here and a -12 return line. That return line is both a return for fuel, but also acts as a breather so you don't pressurize this tank. The other anti-pressurization method is Mark's actually got a fuel level sensor on the surge tank down here. So once that reaches full capacity, we can deactivate that fuel pump in the rear. Now I'm working on plumbing up some fuel pressure regulators. I've got two GFB FXD regulators. These are -8 ORB regs. The reason we're using two is actually for the spring rates on the regs. On a mechanical fuel system, you'll usually see a reg that's got a really long, like real big chunky things, and pretty well, the reason for that is the spring rate. When this thing's spinning at 7,000 RPM and it's got a buttload of fuel pressure in there, when you back off, the mechanical pump's still applying heaps of fuel pressure up to the rails, but then there's no manifold pressure acting on the reg. So pretty well, that spring rate can then be overpowered and the fuel pressure can spike. That's why we're using two regs. I've been fiddling around with these and I've come up with a bit of a solution. It's going to be very tight, but these are going to be mounted at the back here. Hopefully it will work out as planned. The one thing I'm not worried about, but the one thing I'm thinking about at the moment is getting them both set at the same pressure. So I think we'll have to maybe come up with a way to probably block them off so that they're not feeding back into each other, and then set them both at the same time and then plumb them back in together. Apologies for the shaky boat ride. That was filmed by my 10-year-old stepson. I think he did a pretty good job though. And that's the final outcome, world's shortest AN line underneath, joining the rails together, and I nailed it first go. It's it looks neat. Nothing's really done up yet, it's all loose, but now we need to plumb these two they're -8s, plumb the two returns back into a 10, and then that goes down into the tank at the front here. That's the next one. I don't know.
I like that. That's good. Are you okay with that? Sweet.
Something that's commonly overlooked is fitting rollover valves within the breather system. In this case, we've got 2 fuel tanks. One of them uses race fuel, which does require a massive breather, so I'm splitting the -12 line into 2 -10 rollover valves and filters. The other breather runs down to the standard fuel tank, which will hold 98 octane fuel. I've had a whirlwind of a week. We've been working on the Burrito. I've also been working on a few love jobs. My brother's Gen 2 Pajero. If you tuned into the live stream, thank you for tuning in. And we got the clutch done in the end, all sorted. I've been organising some stuff for Kevo, and I've also been filming another project with another mate. So my brain's been scatterbrained all week. We're just hooking back into the Chevy Malibu. We've got the exhaust lengths welded up. Mark's opted for some 4-inch oval on the car, basically to increase ride height. And this is where we're up to now. We've got to kind of join the dump pipes up to the rest of the exhaust. We've just cut the floor out for clearance. Pretty well want to keep everything off as high as possible. So you still want kind of the exhaust to always be the lowest point of the car. So it's a sacrificial thing. So you're not scraping your sump or your pan, but you also don't want it scraping on the ground. So keeping it as high as possible. We've scalloped out the cross member, and now we've got the lengths in place. Mark's just using the one muffler on each bank. No crossover. You're not joining them together, are you? Nah, no crossover. So mega thong slap with the 4-inch oval. Apparently it makes them sound weird, but I've also heard some cars with it that sound okay. So we'll see how we go. And if it sounds crap, we'll just dump them off at the dump pipes here. So we'll continue on. My aim is to get this done by tonight. So we'll hook in and then move on to something else. What else is there to do on the car? We're ready to start it, are we not?
Well, some earth points on.
Earth points for the ECU.
Otherwise Timmy will break my arm.
Timmy's upset. The zip tie works, doesn't it, man? Surely.
Bluetooth does.
The little Outcast Automotive tacking band. Can I put your name on it or not?
Sure, why not?
I saw those SS custom tacking bands on the internet, but decided to make them out of hose clamps. Seemed to work. Nice.
Got him. Nice welding mask.
Eyes.
Oh yeah. How good is not having the right tools to do the job? It kind of is the right tool, but it's not really. Oh, post clamp saving the day. Don't look at this gap there. We'll fill that one up. No. What gap? What gap? With the exhaust welded up, I made a start on patching up these massive holes in the floor. Working with 40-year-old steel is a bad time, especially when it's covered in cavity wax and God knows what else. The other challenging part being that the floor is 0.6 of a mil thick compared to 1.2 mil zinc anneal sheet that I'm replacing it with. I had to get creative and use a few caveman techniques to shape up this steel, but once it was cut to size and fitting in the floor, I could turn the MIG all the way down and weld it into place. You could fully weld this sheet in, but in my opinion, it's a waste of time. I've just placed heaps of little tack welds all around the outside of this sheet. I'll then finish off the job with some seam sealer. The last little fab job for the week is to fill in the cutouts on the cross member. I'm just using some 50x3 flat bar that I've bent up to shape. Too big. I'm a pretty honest bloke, so here's a close-up of my bird poops. Nothing that the grinder can't fix though, so with a quick touch up on the flap disc, it can be bolted back onto the car, and then I can fix up the floor with some seam sealer. I actually don't know if I'm doing this correctly, so if someone's got some tips to share, please let me know. All I did was just get a wet rag and gave it a bit of a dab afterwards. It seemed to work, but it was still quite a bit messy.
Saved by the bell, I reckon. There's not much gas left.
Sidetrack City, going to interrupt the program because I've just purchased a new workshop tool. For those that tune into the live stream would have seen me weld up the welding bench or not welding bench. I've got a couple of them just online. Kind of to compare the pair, kind of figured out which one I want to purchase next. So this is meant to be the dirty corner. I've got the Arc Droid, still haven't got that set up with the Unimig plasma cutter, work-ish bench, cutting bench, Linisha wire wheel, and this bad boy. I'm not really too sure where everything's going to go yet. This is just meant to be the corner for it. I might put this on wheels because using the guillotine just then proved to be a bit difficult. So kind of liking this area to be more workshop-y kind of fabrication side of things, but I am missing a few more tools. So I've just been on Marketplace to buy myself a new bandsaw. I'm sick of using the freaking drop saw to cut 4-inch stainless, so I jumped on Marketplace, picked up this bad boy, $1,000. Not a bad little bandsaw. It is old, needs a clean, so I'm going to give it a degrease and clean it up. Visitors on a Saturday.
Yep, definitely.
Hey mate.
How you going?
Good dude, how's this thing going?
Been going for the longest it's been going for a while, so that's good.
Looking good.
We cleaned this thing for a while too.
Oh, you brought me some snacks too. Thanks, mate.
One lesson I've learnt in the new shed is using the right tools. I so wish I had that bandsaw to cut these bends and this pipe square. We've made it happen. We work with what we had and the exhaust system is done. It's not finished yet. I haven't tacked the weld of these on yet. I'm not too sure what Mark wants to do. I believe he's just going to put these on the end here, but I know it's going to be very loud. And there is a path, obviously, beside the diff to have come back and put mufflers somewhere. This pipe, it's 4-inch straight through. Turbos do muffle a lot of sound. These mufflers, I wouldn't even call them a muffler. They apparently they're a high flow thing. They won't sap any power, but I don't know if they're going to sap any sound out of it. The other thing I'm not too sure about is the pipe. I mentioned it. It's got a very tinny sound to it, and I have been told with long lengths of oval pipe, it can change the sound quite a lot. So I don't know what the plan is with maybe future mufflers. Don't know, but all in all, pretty stoked with how it came out. I will admit, I stuffed this side up. It's actually 10 mil lower. Maybe I can blame it on Mark. This is Mark's first time hearing this too. The muffler might be welded on a little bit crooked. We'll blame it on Mark anyway if I can. But all in all, it worked out well. The biggest thing with the exhaust system is road clearance. That's why we've used the oval pipe. We put cutouts in the gearbox crossmember here. So the lowest point would probably be just here, which is like pretty well level with the pan anyway. And then also furthest back just here it's like 130 mil off the ground. So still a reasonable height, but is still the lowest part of the car. All in all, it looks good. There is room for maybe a crossover here. I don't know. We'll see how we go in the future. I also want to put some mounts up on the dump pipes up here somewhere in the bell housing-ish area or off the crossover here. We'll change that in the future. I did want to get the car started in this episode. The stars haven't aligned. Kai is a very busy man. Congratulations, Kai and Danielle. And we haven't gotten there in the end. We are very, very close. The ECU has been configured by Timmy, so it's pretty well almost ready to go. I need to do one more fuel line, which is a return from the twin GFB regs on the race fuel system back down to the surge tank here. I just don't love I like how it looks with the twin regs, but I don't love where the return line sits. It's going to run over the valve cover. It's going to be unneat, and I don't like it there. So I've gone back to the drawing board for that one. So I don't know when we can get that done. We've got to have the stars aligned. We've got to get the crew together to get this thing started. So it may be next week. It may be in a future episode of the Skid Factory. As you can see, I've got a clean bay. I spent hours cleaning this morning. It's currently Sunday. Tomorrow is upload day for Patreon, and I've got projects booked in next week. Some of them are love jobs, and some of them are jobs to be filmed for the Skid Factory. The biggest one is Kevo. I'm getting stuck in next week, and there's so much work to get done on that car. I don't even know where we left off, and I've now got the motivation there to get hooked in. I've just gave him a wash. He's all sparkly out there, so stay tuned for that. If you want to support the show, you can hit the Raceworks merch store to buy some Raceworks merch, or you can support the show by buying merch at theskidfactory.com. Thank you for watching another episode. Drive safe and enjoy the moment. I'll see you next time. Cheers. You can also support the Skid Factory via Patreon. So thank you to Paul Rosen, Lasse Nygaard Larsen, pretty sure I've pronounced that wrong, Holker Suka, Stumpy Finger, and Ben Parrott. Thanks for supporting the Skid Factory legends. I really appreciate it. If you don't want to become a patron, how about sharing this video to your social medias? That helps too. What's for dinner? Let's have some lasagna.
Who was sitting back here counting the Bud Lights? Oh, there's a penny. It looks like another penny.
Oh, ow, that hurts.
My first TIG weld. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah, it's a good distance. Yep. Bit closer again. So you're just focusing on the B-band, you're not going onto the pipe. Oh, okay. The seat joining, that's nice. You're just melting the V-band still. Man, this helmet is blinding
I
me.
know.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Focusing on the wrong part of it.
Ooh, good. First TIG. High five.
Oh, sick.
Now you got to do that for another 8 years.
Yeah. Full time.